Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Waterdown District High School, CHC 2D. This is your first lesson of history. I'm excited. I hope you are. We have to ask a fundamental question. What is history? What does it mean to study history? And let's face it, what's the point? What's the point? Well, you're at that age now where you're starting to think about things. You're starting to accept some of the universal constants in life, like taxes. You got to pay those eventually. And, what is old is new. Just check out Cobra Kai. Everything old becomes new again. And the third reality is that, let's face it, history is cool. It's super cool. Absolutely. Check out Netflix, ladies and gentlemen. Look at all the history movies on Netflix. They're everywhere. Check out the movie theater. Well, when it opens. Look at the video games today. When I was a kid, all we did was play Pac-Man. But today, they're sophisticated, and so many of them are historically based. Everything is based on history. And it's an examination of a culture and yourself that makes studying history, I think, one of the greatest things. It's not just about the stuff, although that is cool. How do we get from this to this? Ever wonder? How do we get from that to your HD TV at home? It also defines how a culture functions. I'm going to study that as well. So I'm very excited, ladies and gentlemen. And to do this, we are going to study a certain way to study history. And these are kind of the tools we use to understand history better and to use it in our everyday lives. And it comes from this wonderful book. It's called The Big Six. And these two authors, who are amazing, came up with these concepts on how we actually study history. I'm not going to give them to all now because you don't have time for this, but I will start with the first one. And it involves you. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, historical significance. Historical significance is a part of the historical thinking concepts. Now, there are 6 of them. And the first one is kind of the fundamental of all of them. Why is this important? Why are we studying this person, this event, this place? Why? It must have some relevance. And so historical significance, historians are always trying to figure out what does it show about the culture and what change did it bring about. There's also another element to it, is that the significance actually changes over time. It certainly does. Take Viola Desmond. 10 years ago, if you asked a Canadian who Viola Desmond is, guess what? No one could answer that question. Yet Viola Desmond now is on our $10 bill. Why? Because she did something remarkable that we're going to study in this class. So ladies and gentlemen, over time, things change. Also, circumstances make people focus on different things. For example, you probably heard of the Spanish flu. It killed millions worldwide. In fact, it almost killed as many Canadians as died in the First World War. 50,000 Canadians. So ladies and gentlemen, we used to teach the Spanish flu, 1918, 1919, as a footnote to history. But now, because of COVID, we are studying it and we're examining it. You've probably heard a lot about it in the news. But historical significance comes down to you. You are as much a part of Canadian history as anybody. So I want to ask you, your first homework assignment, I want to ask you to ask people who you live with, where do you come from? Why are you here? And it's not easy for everyone, and I understand this, and you don't have to if you don't feel comfortable about it. But I'd like you to ask mom or dad, uncles and aunts, grandparents, where are you from? That's the number one question. But why are you here in Canada? What forces drove you from your place of origin to this wonderful country? If you're First Nations, ask, what is the history of your people? Anyways, I'm going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you to share it next week online with us. And it's very, very important. I'd like you to write a few sentences about it. I'd like you to send it to me because I know this sounds weird. When we do this final review before our exam, let's hope, I'm going to put you where you belong, and that is in the history of Canada. So the homework is pretty simple. I just really want you to get in touch with your past. I'm not asking you to sign up for Ancestry.ca. You can if you want to. That'd be cool. Actually, Christmas is coming. That'd be a good Christmas present to ask Santa for. I mean, honestly, we can pick up a textbook. We can read this textbook. But what does it say about our lives? What does it say about your life? And that's the problem with history, traditionally. So you have a student over here, a textbook over here. What I'd like to suggest is they're one and the same, that your history is Canadian history. Let's take a look at Maddie over here. Maddie graduated last year from this class. Little did she know that she had an amazing history. And after investigating it, she found out that her grandparents, her great-grandparents, were in fact interned in a Japanese prisoner of war camp. She actually has the trunk that all of her family was forced to put belongings in, and of course move away from their business and their home that they had been there for many, many years in Vancouver and go to these camps. So her history is tied with that of Canadian history, very, very much so. And so is yours. So take a moment, ask people, where do you come from? Approximately what years did you come here? And of course, why are you here? What are the forces that drove you here? And work backwards. How did your parents meet? How did they get together? Are they from here? And go backwards and backwards and backwards. And try to get as much information on your family, whether you are from here or from away, as much as you can. And that's your homework.